Chicago man was killed and 20 other people were wounded in disturbances around the country last night. Disturbances linked to the opening of a movie called Boyz in the Hood.
Have you seen Boyz in the Hood?
Yeah, of course.
Then you witnessed a film tragedy. He was Ricky, who was shot in the back by gangbangers in Boyz in the Hood.
Ooh, that ain't.
Yo, ever heard about Diedrich D. Gobert? Nah? Well, I bet you've seen Boyz in the Hood, right? Remember Dookie, the dude always chilling with his pacifier? Yeah, that's our guy. But hold up, his story ain't just about Hollywood glitz and glam. We're diving deep into the gritty side of things where the streets and the screen collide. Diedrich D. Gobert, born on a chilly November day back in 1971, came into this world in Shreveport, Louisiana. Even from the start, there was something unique about him, like he was destined for greatness. But you know how it goes, he didn't stick around in Louisiana for too long. Seeking fresh vibes and chances, Diedrich's fam decided to ditch Shreveport and head to the lively scene of Los Angeles. That's where Diedrich grew up, soaking in the vibes of the palm trees and neon lights, all thanks to his mom, Carolyn. Carolyn often reminisced about her son's infectious personality. Diedrich was the kind of guy who could light up a room with his charm and wit. From a young age, he had a knack for making people laugh, his jokes and antics leaving everyone in stitches. As Diedrich grew up in the City of Angels, his magnetic personality continued to shine. He was known for his friendly vibe and genuine demeanor, always ready with a smile and a clever remark to brighten someone's day. Little did he know his knack for bringing joy to others would soon lead him down a path to stardom. Enter John Singleton, a visionary filmmaker on the brink of creating cinematic history with his groundbreaking movie Boyz in the Hood. Determined to capture the raw essence of life in South Central LA, Singleton embarked on a mission to cast local talent, real people who could breathe life into his characters. Fate intervened once again when Diedrich crossed paths with Singleton while working at the local post office. It was a chance encounter that would change the course of Diedrich's life forever. Singleton, impressed by Diedrich's charm and charisma, saw something special in him, something that resonated with the character of Dookie in Boyz in the Hood. With an offer too good to refuse, Diedrich stepped onto the set of Boyz in the Hood ready to seize his moment in the spotlight. And seize it he did. With his unforgettable portrayal of Dookie, complete with that iconic pacifier move, Diedrich captivated audiences and critics alike, leaving an indelible mark on cinematic history.
Ooh, that ain't.
From humble beginnings in Shreveport to the glamour of Hollywood, Diedrich D. Gobert's journey to stardom was nothing short of remarkable. But life isn't always a Hollywood script. On the early morning of November 9th, 1994, things took a tragic turn. Gobert, along with his friends, got caught up in an illegal drag race showdown. It was chaos, with fists flying and tensions high. In the early hours of November 19th, 1994, a crew of buddies including Diedrich Gobert, Ignacio Hernandez, Jenny Hayan, Herman Flores, and Christine Galeras hit up an illegal drag race on Etiwanda Avenue in Miraloma. Gobert and Hernandez were revved up to race, but things took a bad turn when another car cut off Hernandez, forcing him to slam the brakes and sparking a heated argument. A group of Asian dudes jumped Hernandez, but the brawl broke up when they heard sirens. Hernandez and Gobert then split, with Gobert and his crew parking up by a pizza joint on Etiwanda Avenue to look for their other friends. But guess what? They ran into the same Asian crew again. The tension escalated, and one of the Asian guys pulled out a gun and aimed it at Hayan. It got real scary real quick, but luckily, an older dude from the Asian crew calmed things down and they bounced. Later that night, another crew, the ABC gang, showed up at the races. These guys were no joke, with ties to the Bloods and a rep for throwing down. They parked up near the pizza joint too, keeping an eye on things. The ABC gang, aka the Akrho Boyz Gang or Akrho Boyz Crazy, started out as a crew connected to a fraternity in the Philippines called Alpha Kappa Rho. This frat, founded back in '73 at the University of Santo Tomas, has gained a rep for its members getting caught up in all sorts of drama, from clashes with other frats to shady hazing rituals. International Fraternity and Sorority, aka RHO, is a crew that started up in the Philippines back in '73. Originally, it was all about fostering loyalty, unity, and integrity among its members. They're supposed to be all about doing good deeds and helping out with humanitarian projects, but they've been caught up in some messy stuff too. There have been allegations of fights with other frats, harsh hazing of newbies, and even accusations of underage girls. They're officially registered as a non-profit organization with the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission, and they claim to have branches all over the globe. Anyway, the Alpha Kappa Rho crew was founded on August 8th because it was the same day as a big university holiday at UST celebrating St. Dominic. Their motto is Truth Conquers All, and they call their members Skeptrons, which is a fancy way of saying they're like the kings of the crew. Back in '76, they joined forces with the Omega Fraternity and Sorority International and Zeta Upsilon Fraternity, adopting some of their initiation rituals like burning a coin into a member's wrist. Ouch! They even got some screen time in the action flick Tick Boy Tickus at MGA Crocus Boys in '93 with one of their own, Zoran Legapsi, taking the lead. And get this, even President Benigno Aquino III gave them a shout out in 2014 for their 41st anniversary. Talk about some serious street cred. So check it out. The Alpha Kappa Rho frat had some ties with the Blood Street crew. This came out during the trial. Turns out Sonny and Raka, the guy who did the deed, was part of the Akrho Boyz Crazy and was linked to the Bloods. The Akrho Boyz Crazy rolling with the Bloods shows how some street crews team up with bigger, more established gangs to flex their muscle and gain more street cred. The Bloods are a mostly African-American street crew that started up in LA, Cali. You've probably heard about their beef with the Crips. They're all about repping that red color and throwing up unique hand signs. The Bloods are not just one crew though, they're split into different sets. These sets can have different styles, colors, and even ideas, and sometimes they're not exactly on the same page. But since they got going, they're spread out all over the US. The Bloods crew started out to compete with the Crips in LA back in the late 60s. It all kicked off when Raymond Washington and some Crips went after Sylvester Scott and Benson Owens, two high schoolers in Compton. Scott ended up forming the Piru Street Boys, which was basically the first ever Bloods crew. Then Owens set up the West Piru gang. They were all about protecting themselves from the Crips. The whole situation got crazier after a concert in '72 where some Crips attacked and robbed this guy named Robert Ballou Jr., and sadly he got beaten to death. The media went wild and the Crips' reputation shot up even more. Other non-Crip gangs started feeling the heat, so they banded together against the Crips. Then there was this back and forth. First, a Crip a dude named Frederick Lil Country Garrett. Then the Brims, one of the early Bloods crew, retaliated by offing a Crip named Thomas Ellis. After that, the Pirus, the OG Bloods, got together with other gangs who were sick of the Crips and formed the Bloods crew we know today. By '78, there were 15 different Blood sets, but the Crips still outnumbered them 3-1. To prove themselves, the Bloods got even more and in the 80s, they started selling crack all over LA. This brought in big bucks and made the Bloods grow fast, spreading to other cities and states. But when we talk about Bloods, we're not just talking about one group. There's the West Coast Bloods and the United Blood Nation, UBN, also known as the East Coast Bloods. Both rep the Bloods, but they're kind of different. UBN got started in '93 in Rikers Island's George Mochton Detention Center. It was all about protecting African-American gang members from the Latin Kings and Nietas. After getting out of jail, UBN leaders took the Bloods' name back to their New York neighborhoods and started recruiting new members. Now, UBN has like 7,000 to 15,000 members in the eastern US. They make their cash through all sorts of illegal stuff like selling crack and drugs into prison. Okay, back to the West Coast Bloods responsible for Gobert's death. Boring, a member of the ABC gang, noticed Gobert and Hyon talking nearby and thought something was up. Gobert, who wasn't feeling the ABC gang's red gear, decided to step up and confront them. He threw out some gang signs and started talking trash, and things quickly got heated. Goldberg, Gobert's homie, was hyped up and probably drunk, talking and throwing up gang signs. The ABC gang didn't take too kindly to Gobert's antics and started beating him down. Gobert's crew tried to intervene, but it was chaos. Eventually, shots rang out. Boring saw and Raka, a member of the ABC gang, shoot Gobert and Hyon and then punch or kick another dude who tried to step in. And Raka didn't show any remorse, just saying they deserved it. Garcia, another ABC gang member, stayed in his car during the chaos but heard the shots and saw people running. When he confronted Enraka later, Enraka handed over the gun used in the shootings, and Garcia held on to it for a few days before returning it. When the cops showed up, they found Gobert and Hernandez dead on the scene. Hyon was still hanging on, but barely. She took a bullet to the neck, and even though the docs removed it, she ended up paralyzed from the neck down with just a bit of movement left in her arms. The bullet they pulled out of Hyon was pretty messed up, so they couldn't tell for sure what kind of gun it came from, but there weren't any shell casings around, so it was hard to piece together what went down. Autopsies showed both Gobert and Hernandez took a beating before getting shot. Hernandez got hit twice, one bullet even went through his brain. It looked like he was on the ground when he got shot in the head, probably in a scuffle. As for Gobert, he took one shot to the back of his head and that was it. The bullet did some damage to his brain, him on the spot. Thanks to a tip-off, they managed to cuff Enraka a few weeks later on December 12, 1994. When they nabbed Enraka, he tried to play it cool, saying he was just chilling at home with his girl and didn't know anything about the shootings. But when they pushed him for more info, he clammed up and asked for a lawyer. While they were getting the paperwork ready, they fingerprinted and snapped pics of Enraka. He even got a call to his girl, but all he could think about was when he'd get a lawyer and if there was a reward for info. Enraka thought someone ratted him out for cash, so he spilled the beans saying he did shoot, but it wasn't how the cops said. He claimed self-defense even though his gang totally outnumbered the other guys. He said he was tripping on speed and boozing before the races, then saw Gobert acting sketchy. Enraka thought Gobert was packing, so a brawl broke out. He even admitted to firing 4 shots, then tossing the gun out on the freeway. But despite all that, he pleaded not guilty and said it was all lies. In the trial, his gang buddies and a doc talked about how meth messes with your head, making you paranoid and violent. Enraka's actions matched up with being high on meth, they said. Gobert was pretty wasted with a blood alcohol level of 0.16, Hernandez was at 0.14, and Hayan was at 0.11. Basically, they were all slurring their words, stumbling around, and acting all emotional. Now, when it comes to whether Gobert had a gun, it's a bit sketchy. One dude said he saw something shiny in Gobert's pants, but then he backtracked and said he didn't really remember seeing anything. Another guy said Gobert was just adjusting himself, nothing more. Then there's this other guy who claims he saw Enraka shoot Gobert, but he's not exactly the most reliable witness. He couldn't even remember seeing other dudes who were definitely there, let alone who shot who. So yeah, take what he says with a grain of salt. During the trial, there were some heavy testimonies from people whose lives got flipped upside down since the shootings went down. Take Hayan for example. She spilled how that bullet Enraka blasted paralyzed her from the chest down, meaning she's gotta roll around in a wheelchair for good. Breathing's a struggle, one arm's always hurting and sleep's basically a joke now. Then there's Hernandez's mom, Carmen Vera. She poured her heart out about her boy's upbringing, how he was this football-playing, engineering program-bound young man. But now she's been through heaps of therapy dealing with the aftermath. It's not just her life that's changed, but also her younger son's. As we dig into the sad story of Diedrich D. Gobert's life and death, we're faced with the harsh truth about street life and gang culture in LA. Diedrich's story is not just about personal tragedy, it's a clear sign of the constant danger hanging over the streets of LA. After Diedrich's tragic death, we're faced with a chilling reality. Once you're in the streets, it's hard to break free. Diedrich and his crew were caught up in the dangerous world of gang crime, and it ended up costing them everything. In wrapping up Diedrich D. Gobert's story, we're hit hard by the reality of gang life in LA. His journey, marked by tragedy, reminds us how harsh and unforgiving that world can be. Diedrich's death leaves us with heavy hearts, forcing us to confront the brutal outcomes of living in the midst of gang violence and street crime. His story is a reminder of the struggles faced by countless others caught up in the same dangerous web. But even in the darkness, there's a glimmer of hope. By raising awareness, understanding the root causes, and coming together to take action, we can work towards breaking the cycle of violence. Diedrich's memory can be a driving force for change, lighting the way toward a future where every life is valued and where dreams are not cut short by violence. So, as we say goodbye to Diedrich D. Gobert, let's honor his legacy by fighting for justice, showing compassion, and working towards a safer, brighter future for our communities.